Welcome to part one of this 3-part series. It is all about how to actually make your resolution stick this year in a more intuitive, non-restrictive way. So we are moving away from typical diet culture, and I'm giving you 3 ways, 1 episode per each one, on how you can really stick to those fitness goals, how you can eat more mindfully, but also nourishing your body, feeling good, getting the energy, and then lastly, on how to feel good in your body and your mind. So part 1 right now is the fitness side. And what I want to do here is 2 big things. 1, I want to introduce you to a different way to think about your fitness resolutions, one that will stick well beyond January and will actually probably last you years. And 2, I want you to kind of rethink your overall approach to the way that you see your body. These are big goals, but this is step 1 towards it. Now, I also will mention throughout this episode and at the end that I have a program called the Rio Plan. It is really affordable. It's $10 per month, 500 workouts you can do. All of them follow the principles that I'm going to talk about here. In this episode, there are 3 different segments. Each of them is going to walk you through a different way for you to approach fitness so that it sticks. Something else I'm going to do for you in this episode is I'm going to give you an example training plan that follows the intuitive fitness principle I'm talking about. So you can walk away already having some workouts ready to do, understanding how it works. And these are inspired by the Rio Plan. We're going to start out here. Segment 1, understanding the traditional fitness approach. Why it doesn't work, what you'll commonly hear about why, the downsides to it, also why New Year's resolutions always fail. And then lastly, kind of taking you into a new perspective. So first, story to illustrate. I was a runner for 7 years, but actually that's not accurate. I ran for 7 years and I hated every single moment of it. I would run at 6 a.m. I would run at 10 p.m. I would run through the snow. I would run because I ate too much and I felt like I needed to burn off the extra possible weight. I would run just because I felt like I needed to be smaller. None of these are reasons that are super motivating. And so as you can imagine, every day I did this was miserable. I never looked forward to that movement. I'm shocked it lasted as long as it did. And what I have found through actually now it's over 20 years in fitness, working out, exercising, 10 plus years working with individuals of all ages around the world, what I have seen with fitness, what really sticks, what really lasts, because my first client now was 11 years ago and she's still working out. The reason why it was different is because the approach was different. And I no longer did this way, which is the usual way you've been learned. I tried something new because the traditional way we do fitness is all about fighting the resistance that you have. You don't want to go and do that workout. You don't want to be there. It is all about willpower. It's about high intensity, high exertion, often involves overtraining because you're not listening to your body cues. And it's about calorie burning. That is how traditional fitness in the diet world is sold to you. So it's no wonder that people say they hate working out, or they don't enjoy it, or they can't stick to it. It relies on strict regimes. It is all about obligations and pressure. You hear the sayings all the time. Do you want it enough? Are you making excuses, etc., etc.? Well, if you actually had an approach that worked, like we're going to talk about, you wouldn't even want to make the excuses because it would feel so natural to you. And that's what I'm going to share in this episode. This all comes down to like why fundamentally fitness resolutions fail. A big part. A huge part of that is because of the way that we approach them. We burn out on them. We get frustrated by them. The driver for you to work out traditionally is because you don't like your current body image. And self-hatred really only carries you so far before you want to break down. That is not the way that I want you to learn, because when you learn that way, your anxiety increases, your stress level increases, you don't stay consistent. And really what happens to everyone, even the quote unquote most dedicated people, is you are constantly comparing your body and really struggling with body image. Now, something else that kind of really put it home to me is how high the dropout rates are when you follow the usual way of doing fitness, the mainstream way. I remember this when I was working in gyms and I was first starting to be a PT. The management would often tell us, hey, in January, we need to get as many people signed up as possible because there is going to be a 70% dropout rate. People who are no longer active coming to the gym doing PT within 3 months because they lack willpower. If something fails so bad as that, 70% failure rate, it's not about willpower. It's about the way that we are going about doing things. I looked at everything that wasn't working, and that is when I created my membership workout plan, Rio Plan. I basically looked at how can we keep people coming into workouts? How can we keep people seeing themselves in a better light? How can we get them excited about fitness again? That is everything I put into the Rio Plan and everything that I'm going to share with you today. What if fitness were enjoyable for you? What about it was connecting with your body and it wasn't so hard to show up? If you didn't feel guilty because you missed a workout, but you felt like it was just part of your life? What if it was about more than just physical stress, exertion, and calorie counts? What if it was a gateway to body acceptance and to more strength and energy levels? In segment 2 here, we're going to talk about the intuitive fitness approach, telling you what it is, giving you the science behind it, and showing you the benefits of why it's so powerful for you. Now let's start with defining what it is. When I talk about intuitive fitness, much like intuitive eating, a lot of people might roll their eyes and say, well, this has no framework. And so we're going to bring you all of that. Intuitive fitness is like this. It is driven by internal reactions. It's driven by your natural body cues and the way that your body responds to different movements, also your mind. Versus traditionally in the fitness world, it's external pressure. We are looking at how can we change your physique and how can we also change how many calories you are burning or how much fat you want to burn, etc. That is all externally driven, and it doesn't care about how you feel or anything internal to your body. Now that's getting better, I will say, especially with the apps that can track a lot of this bio-individuality in each person, but it's still not at the same point. There's also intuitive fitness, which has more of a mind-body connection. It is listening to your body fully. It is feeling the movements fully. It is also prioritizing what you actually like. And people might say, well, what if I don't like any of the exercises I'm meant to do? This is where it requires a total perspective shift. If I talk about intuitive fitness, yes, it includes yoga or walking, but it also could be that 8-mile run is connection and intention, body connection and the intention behind each of the movements that you do. So let's go into the science behind intuitive fitness. It works based on this idea of self-determination theory, or the idea that your intrinsic motivation, you want to do something because it is inherently enjoyable to you, leads to more sustainable behavior changes. In other words, if you really feel good doing it and you like it and there's no of that shame and that external pressure, you are more likely to keep going to the gym or to working out. You are creating a positive relationship with your body. You are boosting your self-esteem and your body image, because one of the biggest things you will ever learn, and I'm always sharing with people, is that your body image has nothing to do with how you actually look. It's how you perceive it. What all of this means, what it comes down to, the biggest benefits is that when you follow a more intuitive approach, you improve your mental health, you reduce your stress and anxiety, you have less injuries because you're connected to your body, and you do have better results. Now, this part is one that most people don't believe, but here's where it gets really interesting. I remember when I first started working out, age 17, I had never done sports and fitness. I was always like mandatory sports, last one picked, and the gym, mandatory sports, no one wanted me on their team, last person on the track team. Like, it wasn't, when I say I didn't do sports, it's because I epically failed at them and I did not like them. But when I started working out at age 17, my intention was the mainstream fitness one. I didn't like my body. And I remember I read this book, which I was too early to hear at that point. I wasn't ready for the message, but I had this book of exercises that I borrowed from my aunt, and it had 60 huge, full-length, beautiful black and white photos of women and men doing different exercises in the gym, and then full explanation of each one, how it worked the body. And I remember when I was reading this book, the first third of it talked about how you need to connect with your body in every movement to really get the results that you want. When you're doing that hamstring curl and you are thinking about the hamstrings contracting and then you're thinking about the full release, your form is better. Your muscles are firing more deliberately because you are conscious of it. Versus if you're on your phone scrolling or you're just looking in the mirror, you are not going to have that same result. When we're talking about intuitive fitness, it means being present. Yes, you listen to your music, but your focus is much more on what's happening in my body as I'm doing this. How do we now take all of this and make it into a movement habit that feels good? How do we take everything I've been talking about now with you and how do we make it into something you can sustainably keep up? There are 3 parts to this. The first one is starting small, how you can make this a bit of a habit for you. The next one is about creating a routine. Then we talk about mindfulness in your movement, and we finish on how to track your progress differently. First, naturally, you're going to start small. And I really recommend starting with short daily movement sessions. Now, whether you're someone who hasn't worked out for ages or you're someone who's been doing it for a while, but you really feel burnt out on what you're doing, you don't like it anymore, this is for you. 10 to 15 minute movement sessions that really allow you to connect with your body. Again, it doesn't have to just be yoga. It can be running if that's something you enjoy. It can be dance. It can be body weight. I would recommend in the beginning that you don't use weights just because that can sometimes distract from the connection to your body. It can also lead you to move in a way which isn't as free-flowing and natural as if you didn't have them. I completely recommend using weights later, but in the beginning, first week of this. So 10 to 15-minute workout sessions added on to what you already do or separate 3 times a week, starting with that. And if you have no idea where to go, what to do, RioPlan is for you. You can find it on the Feel Good Naked website, Naked without the E. You can find it in the show notes. There are over 500 workouts on there, most of them 15 minutes or less, and they will really walk you through, plus the training plan. So this is where, again, I'm going to really pitch to you, do RioPlan. The first week is free. If nothing else, it gives you some ideas on what to do. That also leads into my next point, which is creating a routine. So something that is less talked about. It's not just about taking your workouts and putting them on the calendar. It's about making movement a part of your daily life. So I'm interested in you having what might become an hour-long session 3 to 5 times a week, sure. But what I know will help it stick is if daily movement is a part of your life. And this is where we talk about things like integrating it into your life. Morning stretches, evening walks, middle of the afternoon, tiny little ab crunches if you want. Just stuff that makes movement a part of your life, no matter what, whether it's a rest day or not. So that movement becomes so entwined with what you do that you can't imagine not doing it. Where a lot of us go wrong is we haven't worked out at all. It's been a long time. And then we decide January comes, I'm going to do 5 days a week, 1-hour sessions, and I'm going to jump into it. And that is both too much for us, we overtrain, and not enough. Because it's only 1 hour of a 24-hour day. Or let's say if you're up for 18 hours, it's 1 hour of 18. What are you doing the rest of the time? So when I was working with clients as a personal trainer, which I no longer do, but when I was doing this for over a decade, a key part was how can we build movement into your daily life so that your body craves it, so that it wants it, so that you feel like this is a choice for me, not something that my trainer is making me do, or something that I feel guilty I should because I want to change my body. This is different. This is how you also build consistency over intensity. I will always say I prefer for you to do 5 stretching workouts than for you to do 1 high impact, super running, jumping one per week. It is better to do those 5 because you are building a habit. The next part of creating your routine is choose a time that works for you. A lot of people will say things like join the 5 a.m. club. Let's go work out at 6 a.m. Listen, if that is not for you, it is okay. My favorite time to work out is the late morning or early afternoon. Think about when is your time to work out. And we're going to also talk about mindfulness and movement as part of making this a habit for you. So something you want to regularly do is you're introducing breath work into your exercises. You might already do this. It's things like exhaling usually on the most challenging part of the movement, inhaling on the easier range. That's a natural thing. Every fitness expert will agree and tell you this makes for better results. Body scanning, noticing how your body feels with every single movement. I'm not against pushing to that next rep. I'm not against pushing yourself a little further. But what I don't like is when your body is clearly breaking down and someone says, keep going. If you don't have that training to really understand where your body's at, it is not going to be good for you. So you can't expect to have, the same body awareness as someone who's been in the fitness industry for 20 years. It's just not going to be the case. So you really want to think about, how does this movement feel for me when I'm doing it? Also, you should know that if you do a fitness class, if something feels wrong, tell the instructor, modify, don't do it. It's not like they're not gods, everything they say to do, you don't have to do exactly. Your body is different. And if something feels weird, it's either because you're doing it incorrectly or maybe it's not for you right now. Either way, have some autonomy, have some respect for your body to say, this is not for me. I modify all the time when I go to people's workout classes, and I'm fine for people to do it when I was teaching as well. Lastly, I want you to think about how can you move around your movement sessions. It's very helpful in terms of keeping our mind engaged and our motivation up to create diversity and variety. We don't like doing the same 3 workouts again and again and again for months. That's why people get really bored. That's also one of the reasons why they love working with a trainer, because they get the variety. When I do RioPlan, I create it modularly. So what that means is in a week, we have a six-day training cycle. The 6th day is usually a stretching workout. And of those 6 days, there are 10 different workouts, mini workouts. So it might be 1 per day of 30 minutes or 2 of 15, etc. Those are listed, but then members can kind of move around what they want to do based on how they're feeling. Create something similarly for you, and you really will find it much more enjoyable than just being like, okay, today I run. Tomorrow it's the same upper body exercises, and the next day it's a lower body. At the moment I'm in Brazil, and something I've always admired here, and I've talked about this a lot, that I think is incredible for training, and it touches on this point of variety, is when you join a gym, you'll often, as part of that service, sometimes a little extra, you will work with a trainer who develops a program for you, shows you the exercises, and you have 2 different programs. So A and B, and you essentially alternate between them for 1 month, and then you change them. You get a new one. People don't keep it up if they get bored. Don't get bored. Lastly, for this section on building a habit out of movement is tracking your progress a little differently. Traditionally, the way people like to track their progress is how many steps have I done? How many calories have I burned? How much weight or inches have I lost? And that gives you a very so-called objective feedback on how you're doing. The problem with that is if you're losing all this weight, for instance, in a method that you cannot maintain more than 90 days, does it really matter what your progress is? That's kind of the fundamental question here. So the tracking kind of becomes obsolete. It doesn't make sense because you're getting kind of a short-term satisfaction of seeing progress, but it's not progress that you will maintain. And having been in gyms for over 10 years and worked with people personally in their homes, I can say a lot of people struggled for years with this. It's just the reality when you're following the traditional way of doing stuff. So what I recommend instead, and I know this is a jump for many people, but what is really going to help you make fitness stick more than anything else where you've been struggling with it before is not going to be looking at how much weight you lose or how many inches fall off. I hate that saying fall off as well. It's not going to show that for you. What will make the big difference for you is actually going to be tracking things like functional movements. How many more reps could I do this week than last? How long could I hold this plank versus last week? Or how much more energy do I feel this week? How much better do I feel in my body? Not because of how it looks, but because my energy levels are rising. This is how you are able to track differently. It's also the way you approach tracking. So, for example, I do pull-ups. I've done them for 4 years now, almost 5. And when I write down how many reps I do, and I always do that so I can track it, at the end, I have a bunch of little emojis that I choose on the day of hearts or muscle arms or whatever to feel good about it. It's just a small way to make it not just about the numbers. So thinking about that as you track can really help you stay focused, show you some accountability and some progress, but not in the way that is typically body shaming, because we all know the feeling of you were meant to lose X weight, you go to weigh in, and it's not there. This is a completely different way to approach it. So now let's go into sharing with you towards the end of this episode a training plan. We've gone over all the segments on why this fitness approach is better for you. Let me give you an example. Now this is pulled straight from the Rio plan. It's an example weekly schedule. Monday, we do a total body Pilates session. This can be 10 minutes, it can be 45, it's up to you. I love starting with total body, especially Pilates, because you really feel into your body. It's like a reset. It starts you for the week. I think it's an amazing workout to get connected and back into everything you're doing. Because Sunday, I usually recommend people rest. They just enjoy their time, their life. Tuesday, I do a workout called Brazilian Flow. Now, this combines capoeira, which is a light Brazilian martial art. It also combines a little bit of yoga. It's a movement that essentially is a little bit more dynamic than Pilates, requires a little bit more strength, but again, it's body weight. It connects you to your body, it connects you to your breath. Variations of that can also work. Wednesday, calisthenics. So body weight only. In this, we would focus on either the upper body or the lower body. So it depends on the day and the week. Now we start to get into actual strength training. Thursday, bar quickie. So bar quickie is basically a 15-minute bar workout, ballet bars style. And then I might also have a lower bands workout, which is 15 minutes. So we're working our lower body and we're also focusing on flexibility. So we're adding that into this. Friday, cardio burst, but it's a low impact one. Sometimes it will be 30 minutes. A lot of times it's 15. You can move your cardio up to Wednesday if you want. The reason why I have it in this example on Friday is because cardio is the one where people are most likely to zone out. And at least if you had a few days to reconnect with your body, you will be present for this one, but you can kind of move it around as you like. And then Saturday is usually balance training. So just as you think, being able to balance, or it's a yin yoga or a light yoga. So getting into your flexibility. Now you notice through all of this, it is very body weight centric. It is all about reconnecting with the body, and it's not super high intensity. Now, someone could add more intense stuff if they wanted, but I would really stick to this, especially in the first 1 to 2 weeks. That is an example of a training plan that we have on the Rio plan. Every week is different. If you want this done for you, you want to follow along with me in the workout videos, you can go to feelgoodnaked.com, remember, or you can find it in the show notes. I've talked all about how we're redefining fitness in this part 1 of your intuitive wellness series. I've talked about intuitive movement, how to create a sustainable habit, what to do to really take you there. Our part 2 is going to be all about non-diet nutrition. So nourishing your body without counting. A lot of people say it's not possible. I've been doing it for over 10 years. And I've helped many other people to do it too. So it is. You're going to see. Reminder as well to join the Rio plan if you want these workouts scheduled for you. You want kind of a little taste of this different approach. It can work on its own, or you can add it to what you're already doing. I want to also ask you to share your own stories of what fitness has worked for you, or things that surprise you about this approach. Let me know on Instagram. It's Sade. You can also see it in the show notes. I'm really curious to see what has worked with you for fitness, because this approach is so big and many people might do it a different way. Maybe you didn't call it this, but you're thinking as you listen, hey, this really worked for me or someone I love. Share it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that one of these really stuck with you, and I hope that you try it at least. What is 1 week going to hurt you to see how you feel? Sending you so much strength, so much energy, so much love, and I'll see you in the next one.